I call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this Tuesday, March 15th of 2022. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board this evening?
Well, I think I would like to thank everyone that was out filling potholes, probably not just on regular hours, but after hours, and they've done a great job, and there are always a lot of them. It's the scourge of the public works in the end of winter, beginning of spring, so thank you all for all you do with filling potholes.
Thanks. Next up, we have petitions and remonstrances. This is the opportunity for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. So now is the opportunity to make a public comment about something not on the agenda. We can take public comment either from the room or from Zoom. I'll pause for a second to see if we have any public comment. All right, go ahead.
Are you able to make your comment, or could you possibly type it into chat?
Comment in. Letting us know that the road was closed near Tri-North.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paul, we have engineering staff here that do those right-of-way permits, so we'll make sure. Is that 17th Street or is it Arlington? Do you know, Sam? Okay, 17th, great. We'll make sure we take a look at that and have our engineering staff inspect that. Thank you for letting us know.
All right, any other public comments on anything not on the agenda this evening?
Anybody else on there? I don't believe so.
All right. Next up is the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda this evening is approval of minutes for February 15th, 2022, unlighted sign installation and maintenance agreement for Covenanter Neighborhood, noise permit for Food Truck Friday, Resolution 2022-08, declaration of obsolete yard waste magnets as surplus property by Sanitation Division, 2022 service agreement with Corson Fire and Security for Public Works Facilities, and approval of payroll. Do we have any items that the board would like to remove from the consent agenda this evening?
I move that we take item 2, unlighted sign installation maintenance agreement for Covenanter Neighborhood, and move it to the new business instead.
All right, thank you. I second that motion. Do we have any public comment on moving this item to the new business section? Seeing none. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now, consent agenda. If we have any public comment on anything within the consent agenda, now is the opportunity to make that comment. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, under new business, we have unlighted sign installation and maintenance agreement for Covenanter Neighborhood.
I would like to recuse myself from voting on this item. I'm on the executive committee for the Covenanter Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
All right. Adam Wason, Public Works Director. So the Covenanter Neighborhood Association applied and received a small and simple grant to fund the purchase and installation of 8 sign toppers. The toppers will be installed on the street name marker sign poles, which will identify their neighborhood to the residents and the community. In accordance with the terms of the agreement and Title 20 of the Bloomington Municipal Code, the Covenanter Neighborhood Association has agreed to purchase this public sign, gift the public sign to the city, and maintain the public signs. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Hearing none. Do we have any public comment on Zoom? Okay. Seeing none on Zoom. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the item unlighted sign installation maintenance agreement for the Covenanter neighborhood.
And I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And show one recusal of Hollingsworth. Motion passes. Next up is Resolution 2022-09, encroachment agreement for existing stairs and retaining wall in the right-of-way at 1200 East Hillside Drive and Olive Street.
It'll be Emily from Zoom.
Hi, everyone. This is Emily Herr with Engineering. I just want to confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. The property owners of 1200 East Hillside Drive are planning to remove the existing parking area on private property along South Olive Street in order to install a new driveway on East Hillside Drive. During this process, it was discovered that a portion of an existing retaining wall from the 1950s and concrete steps from the 1920s are encroaching into the right-of-way. The property owners are requesting approval to encroach into the right-of-way with these existing elements at 1200 East Hillside Drive. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Ellen Rodkey, the property owner, is also present to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve Resolution 2022-09, encroachment agreement for existing stairs and retaining wall in the right-of-way at 1200 East Hillside Drive and Olive Street.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is construction inspection contract with VS Engineering for the 17th Walnut to Grant Multimodal Improvements Project.
Good evening, this is Roy Aiton with City Engineering. This project will construct a multi-use path on the north side of 17th Street from Monroe Street to Grant, replace the traffic signal at the intersection of 17th and Madison, and provide multimodal safety improvements within the corridor. The project is programmed in the MPO tip and construction of $2,052,000 in federal funds. VS Engineering was previously selected to perform the construction inspection for the project. Compensation for these services were set at not to exceed $364,900. The construction contract for this project has now been divided into 2 separate projects, a federally funded project from Monroe to Walnut, and a locally funded project from Walnut to Grant. The construction inspection contract needs to be similarly divided to ensure that federally reimbursement inspection fees are tracked separately from the local inspection. This is a new contract which will only provide inspection services for the locally funded project. The compensation for these services is set at not to exceed amount of $87,400. And this contract is TIF funded and it will require RDC approval.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
And this is the Walnut to Grant portion of the project.
Yes, so this will be the new contract from Walnut to Grant for construction inspection.
This is locally funded. This is a locally funded project.
Yeah, yep, with VS Engineering.
Yes, thank you.
Will splitting the contract affect the timing of the actual construction on either portion?
Which was one of the reasons we chose to divide the project up, is for timing of the contract. The larger federal contract would have put us into a construction season on both sections all the way through 2023. By dividing them up, we think we can get the eastern section done in 2022, and then the other section to the west will be done in 2023.
Thank you.
When do you plan to let the construction contract?
Hopefully, we will be out to bid in about 30 days for the construction contract for the eastern portion, the locally funded one. The other one's an NDOT contract, and its letting date, I think, is later this year.
And so being able to separate the two helps with the timetable of the project. Is there also benefit from a reporting perspective? Because you had mentioned, the reporting requirements for the federal funded piece as opposed to the locally funded piece. Does that then mean fewer staff hours or something like that related to trying to divide any of that up within the project?
Right, so we're reducing one contract, which will be the next item this evening. This contract, then, and adding it, so there's some of the items that were considered single items to be done by the consultant will now have to be done twice. And so that's the division of the contracts, just keeps everything cleaner, especially when it comes to invoicing and everything like that we can keep the two projects separate.
We're approving this for $87,400 for the first.
Yes, $87,400.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item? Again, you can use raised hand function on Zoom or type a comment.
No chats?
Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the construction inspection contract with VS Engineering for the 17th Street Walnut to Grant Multimodal Improvements Project.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Next up, we have amendment number 1 to construction inspection contract with VS Engineering for the 17th Walnut to Grant Multimodal Improvements Project.
Roy Aiton again with City Engineering. This is the same project, 17th Street, working on the north. This is the current inspection contract that we have with VS Engineering that was already approved by the board for the construction inspection, and it was in the amount of $364,900. Now that we've divided the project, the construction contract needs to similarly be divided or separated out. So this is a deduction of that original contract that we had with VS Engineering in the amount of $60,500, which will give us a new final construction inspection amount for this contract of $304,400. And once again, this project will be TIF funded and will require the RDC approval.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Only that you think this will begin in 2023.
Yep. Utility relocation work will begin before that, but the actual construction work for the west portion will probably not begin until winter or April of 2003.
Thank you.
And you responded to this a little bit in the previous item, but we talked in the work session about how this contract is not decreasing by the exact amount as the other contract has been created because of the fact that the engineering firm is going to need to do many of the same tasks multiple times across the two projects as opposed to just doing it once with one big project.
Yep.
So that is accounting for the increase overall in the contract.
That's
correct?
true. So what we're asking the board to reduce doesn't match what we're asked the cost of the new contract. Some of that is, some of the duties that they only had to do once, they now have to do twice. 2 red line drawings, 2 closeout documents, 2 things. So there was extra hours on the consultant. So that's why they don't match up perfect cost-wise.
But you feel the benefit of being able to go ahead and expedite that project, get the first piece done locally, And, for staff purposes to not have to change the reporting
That's
across
correct.
lines is going to actually be a great improvement to the city.
Yeah, we think there'll be the improvement with the construction schedule by doing this. Beforehand, we were really running into construction during IU football season. So we're trying to do our best to avoid that. So it had a lot of motivation between dividing this contract up. So there is a benefit to the city by doing this division.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
No chats.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve amendment number 1 to construction inspection contract with VS Engineering for the 17th Walnut to Grant Multimodal Improvements Project.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks. Next up, we have maintenance of traffic plan for the Walnut Street Traffic Signals Project.
Good evening, Matt Smethers with the Engineering Department. This project will include the installation of a new traffic signals at the intersection of 11th and Walnut and 14th and Walnut. The construction contract was previously awarded to Ragel Inc. The maintenance of traffic plan will include single lane closures on Walnut Street and sidewalk closures at both intersections. All of the necessary signage and traffic controls will be in place. Construction is anticipated to begin in April. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Are these traditional stoplight traffic signals or anything different from that?
No, they are traditional like everywhere else in the city.
Signals lately that I've seen are really flat, a flatter look.
I mean, the poles or the signal heads or
Yes,
what part of
The
those?
whole construction of it. Newer
When
look.
there's mast arm signals and then strain pull signals, so there's some
So these are just
slight
traditional.
differences between those, but these will be, your traditional signal overall.
So I just wondered which ones you were planning to use.
I believe these are mast arms. I have to
Yeah.
double check on that.
Okay, thanks.
And as far as the lane and sidewalk closures, we talked about this a little bit in the work session. Those are going to move based on where the construction is happening. So does that mean then that the sidewalk closures will just be affected by the actual pole location and the work happening at that pole? The other sidewalk on the other side will be the open sidewalk, is that correct?
Correct. They'll have like the eastern lane closed while they're working on that side of the street, and the western lane and sidewalks would remain open at that time. And then when they need to, they'll flip over to the other side of the street, and the eastern side would then be open for traffic and sidewalk pedestrian access.
So you're going to start this in April this year?
Yes, don't have an exact date, but we anticipate April 1st.
Once it begins, do you have a sense of how long that construction will last?
The contract gives the contractor 120 days to complete both signals. Hopefully, they'll be finished a little bit quicker than that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment on this item?
I don't see any raised hands or chats.
Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the maintenance of traffic plan for the Walnut Street Traffic Signals Project.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, we have right-of-way use request from Carmel Construction for dumpster placement on West 6th Street, and that is March 18th, 2022 through May 30th of 2022.
Yes, Mike Stewart with the Engineering Department. Carmel Construction is requesting 2 metered spaces on West 6th Street in between Morton and College for the placement of a dumpster. As you indicated, this will start March 18th and go through May 29th, 2022. This dumpster has actually been placed here previously starting in January at a staff level approval. The use of these spaces will just be Friday through Sunday. Carmel Construction will be paying the meter fees to the Parking Services Department for these spaces if the board does approve. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
No.
Any public comment on this item? Again, chat or raised hand function on Zoom works.
Seeing none.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
Move that we approve the right-of-way use request from Carmel Construction for dumpster placement on West 6th Street, March 18th through May 30th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have request for sidewalk closure adjacent to the courthouse on North Walnut Street from Monroe County. This is for March 21st, 2022 through April 15th of 2022.
Yes, Mike Stewart again with the engineering department. Thank you for hearing this. This kind of came in at the last minute. Monroe County government is requesting the use of the sidewalk on North Walnut. This will be the westernmost sidewalk adjacent to the courthouse, so from 6th Street to Kirkwood, for approximately 1 month. They're hoping to finish up a little bit sooner if they can. This is to repair and replace the Alexander War Monument on the southeast corner there of the courthouse property. To accommodate this, they're going to have to bring in a crane that can lift the, I believe I was told, 3,500 pound panels that will be replaced. They have assured us that the outriggers for the crane will not encumber into Walnut Street itself. All the crosswalks will remain open, and additionally, the sidewalks will be opened after working hours, so after 5 p.m. And as well as on the weekends. So this will only be when they are actively working and lifting over the sidewalk. And I do have Greg Crone here from Monroe County if there are any questions that I can't answer.
You are
Thank
using
you.
8 metered spaces, or they'd like them in reserve.
Yeah, so,
It leaves about 10 spaces that are not being used.
yeah,
Toward the
so
north.
that's one of the things that happened due to the last minute. It will actually be 12 spaces. Originally, they
12,
were going to be
okay.
requesting 4 spaces up on the northeast corner, but those are our accessible spaces. So Greg and I spoke, and they are going to now request 12 spaces, and they have reached out to Parking Services to get that approval as well.
Okay.
So does that mean, because of that conversation about the accessible spaces, that the accessible spaces are remaining open, but
That's
standard spaces are the ones that are going to be used on that stretch?
That's correct. They're no longer requesting any spaces along 6th Street where the accessible spaces are.
Okay.
But there would still be about six spaces on Walnut Street that would not be used if they're just requesting 12.
Approximately, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
because I counted them and yeah.
Yeah,
So-
perfect.
So people can still park there and then access the sidewalk to go to the intersection.
Correct.
Okay.
So the parking spaces will be inaccessible the entire time, but the sidewalk will be accessible when the work is not being done? And are there any safety precautions along the sidewalk after working hours to protect people or protect the crane?
I'll let
And if you can just introduce yourself, Mike.
Greg Crum, Monroe County Government Facilities and Fleet Manager. The crane won't be staying on site all the time. They're going to pull it back out on a daily basis, so it'll only be on site as needed. The spaces would remain blocked, but the sidewalk would be open after work hours are completed each day.
Okay, so the sidewalk will essentially be clear when the crane is...
Correct. I've already
okay.
spoken with the contractor about removing the Type 3 barricades, setting them back over onto the courthouse lawn so the sidewalk will be accessible.
Okay, thank you.
And then, will there be detour signage for pedestrians guiding them to the sidewalk on the other side of the street?
Yes. Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, we do have a maintenance of traffic plan. There will be sidewalk closed cross here at both intersections at 6th and at Kirkwood. Type 3 barricades will be present where basically pedestrians are not wanted. So anybody who's parked in any of those open spaces will still be able to access the sidewalk and go north, but they won't be able to go south into the construction site.
So there'll be barricades, not allowing them to go into those.
Yes, and those will, as Greg mentioned, those will be removed at the end of the workday.
I don't remember anything on the calendar, but do we have any festivals or use of roadway that in any way conflicts?
Nothing planned right now. No.
Okay, nothing, I'm sure
Not during this
Monroe County would be aware of anything in use on the courthouse lawn, but it will just making sure there's not anything in conflict.
And I'll just add real quick, I appreciate Mike working real close with Greg today. This kind of came up last minute, kind of had the opportunity to get this project going, so we wanted to expedite that. So thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Probably turned on my microphone.
Any other questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item? Again, you can post in the chat or use raised hand function if you're on Zoom.
I see none.
Seeing none. Is there a motion on this item?
Move that we approve the request for sidewalk closure adjacent to the courthouse on North Walnut Street from Monroe County, March 21st through April 15th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks. Next up, we have change orders number 1 and number 2 for the Discovery Parkway project with Kreider and Kreider.
Good evening, Roy Aiton with City Engineering Department. This project was awarded on March 16, 2021 to Kreider and Kreider. The contract included the resurfacing of East Discovery Parkway and the installation of a multi-use path along the northern right-of-way of East Discovery Parkway. The original contract amount for this project was $523,195.20. Change order 1 will add an additional $750 to the contract and will cover the cost of installing a 12-inch pipe end section. Change order number 2 will balance the final quantities of the project and result in a deduct of $26,158.61 from the contract. Passage of both change orders will result in a final construction price for this project of $497,786.59. Funding for this project was provided through an agreement with Indiana University, as well as a state community crossing grant in the amount of $326.70.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item?
No raised hands, no chats.
Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve change orders number 1 and number 2 for the Discovery Parkway project with Kreider and Kreider.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks. Next up, we have request for street closure on North Park Avenue from East 9th to East 10th Streets from Messer Construction for March 21st, 2022 through April 22nd, 2022.
Paul Kerbrick, Engineering Department. Messer Construction is requesting a full street closure on North Park Avenue between 9th and 10th Street. This is for work they're doing on the Collins Center renovation. They'll be placing a crane in the street. There's an existing closure on the east side sidewalk in that block, and they're requesting the closure from March 21st through April 22nd, 2022. They've sent notices to the residents, and we've also reviewed their maintenance of traffic plan, and we're good with everything. Are there any questions?
Questions from the board?
Just about the signage for, and detour for the street closure. That will be all signed and
Yes, yeah, everything will be signed
Just
for the
make sure that that's
detour.
all in place. And notification of residents, you have also done that?
I couldn't hear what you said.
Pardon me?
She has residents.
Residents, notification of
Yes,
residents,
they've
I'm
sent out
sorry.
notices,
Yes.
yep.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any public comment on this item?
I see no raised hands or chats.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve request for street closure on North Park Avenue from East 9th to East 10th Streets for Messer Construction, March 21st, 22 through April 22nd, 22.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have request for street closure on North Dunn Street and East 14th Street from the Standard at Bloomington. This is April 4th, 2022 through April 29th, 2022.
Paul Kerberg, Engineering. The Standard at Bloomington LLC is requesting 2 street closures as part of their project along East 14th Street. They're requesting a full closure on East 14th from Lincoln to Dunn, and this won't be all closed at once. They'll be doing it in phases and keeping access as much as possible. And this closure will be from April 4th through April 29th, and this is for the installation of a new water and sanitary sewer mains. And they're also requesting a full closure on North Dunn from Indiana to 14th Street, including the intersection at 14th. And this is to install new water and sewer mains where they have to cross the street to make the connections. And this will be from May 9th to May 15th, 2022, and this is after IU's commencement. They sent out notices to all the area properties, and we've also reviewed their maintenance of traffic plans. Are there any questions?
Even with the closures, will there still be access to driveways for residents and they'll be able to get in and out of residences?
Yes, there will be.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
they're working with them as much as possible.
You're having staggered closures, you're not closing it all at once, you'll be staggering the closures.
Right, yes.
And there will still be pedestrian access in the area, like a detour for pedestrians,
There will be pedestrian access along the north side of 14th.
north side of 14th?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No.
Any public comment on this item? Again, you can type something in the chat or use the raised hand function if you're on Zoom.
I see no raised hands and no chats.
All right. Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
Move that we approve the request for street closure on North Dunn Street and East 14th Street from the Standard of Bloomington, April 4th, 22 through April 29th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have requests for street closure on East Longview Avenue from East 7th Street to North Pete Ellis Drive from Scannell Properties. That's March 21st, 2022 through April 3rd, 2022.
Paul Kerberg, Engineering. Scannell Properties is continuing the Curry Urban Project at the intersection of Longview and Pete Ellis. And they need to make sanitary sewer lateral connections across Longview. And the connections are under the sidewalk along the south side of Longview. And the north sidewalk is currently closed. So they're requesting the full closure on Longview to install a pedestrian walk-around so they can complete their work from off the street on the site. And this work will be from March 21st through April 23rd, 2022. And we've reviewed their maintenance of traffic plans and have accepted everything. Are there any questions on this?
How did you say they're going to reroute the sidewalk?
They'll be using a walk-around within Longview.
I was trying to determine, looking at the map, and I'm not as familiar right there at Longview. Is there a multi-use path in that? It looked like there was. It looks like there's a sidewalk on one side and a multi-use path on the other, but I wasn't sure. Is that right?
Yeah, the multi-use path is on the north side, and that's what's currently closed with an existing closure within their site right now.
Okay, so it's closed from Pete Ellis to Longview? I'm just trying to picture exactly the
Yeah,
closure
it's
there.
closed from Pete Ellis west, then around the curve on 7th also.
Okay, so right now, pedestrians will be able to access that area with the walk-around, and bicycles are taking the vehicle detour? Is that,
Or they can go through the walk-around. to
okay,
get
so the
around it.
walk-around will be wide enough for multi-use,
Yeah.
I guess, okay, okay.
Because we previously approved that closure on the north side sidewalk, because that's where all the construction work and the big fences along there, and
Correct, yeah.
pretty busy along there now. I go that way a lot, so it's like, ooh, busy.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Again, you can use the chat or the raised hand function if you're on Zoom.
I see no raised hands or chats.
Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the request for street closure on East Longview Avenue from East 7th Street to North Pete Ellis Drive from Scannell Properties, March 21st through April 3rd, 2022.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have contract with Groomer Construction for sidewalk assistance 50/50 repair replacement program.
Adam Wason here. Yep, we're on. Adam Wason, Public Works Director. So we received a quote yesterday during the work session from Groomer Construction for the sidewalk assistance program. This was for monolithic sidewalk repair and replacement at $151 per foot and 5-inch sidewalk repair replacement at $95 per foot. We are requesting approval of that this evening. I will note this is a little bit higher than we had hoped and expected to be, but in talking with the contractor and talking with city staff, concrete is at a premium right now. Obviously, gas costs are also being factored into some of these quotes, but we'll continue to monitor where things go. It's possible we would put out another bid for this later in the season.
Questions from the board on this item?
Adam, did I read the contract is for $100,000?
Yeah, up to 100,000, not to exceed.
Okay, not to exceed, okay.
And staff is comfortable with the pricing where it is if need be?
Comfortable's a strong term. I mean, we don't have other options right now, so, we reached out to some other vendors, also hearing the same thing. Would we love to have it at a lower price? Absolutely. But again, we'll continue to kind of monitor where pricing goes, and if it's deemed that we can put it back out for additional quotes.
Okay, thank you.
If a resident is interested in participating in the repair and replace program, are there certain neighborhoods that are designated for that program, or what should they do to find out if they
Yes.
can?
So you can go to the city's website, and through the street department, there is a search function for your address to see if you're an eligible property. We are still limiting this participation program to areas that are eligible for community development block grant funding. So it's a federal program for infrastructure improvements and things, but it's based on demographic information like income and things. So trying to target, as I said several years ago, when we look to do sidewalk assistance here and partnership, maybe not in front of the really wealthy, really expensive homes, and looking towards some of the lower income areas and areas that have mobility challenges, whether with the sidewalk networks and things like that. So. But yes, we do have a search function on the website to assist folks with that.
Thank you.
And I will just add to that point, though, in years where we have not gotten a large group of applications after several attempts of trying to get word out, we have made we have invested in other areas outside of just those CDBG, but we definitely try to go through those areas first and try to find interested property owners there.
Very good, thanks.
And then just another point to add, last year we did use a small portion of this money for the sidewalk grinding contract as well. We had some additional money at the end of the year that we were able to, that wasn't used for this, that we were able to do with the sidewalk grinding and saw cutting to eliminate trip hazards. So Just another point.
And that actually leads to another question. If it's determined that a property would actually be better suited for grinding of the sidewalk, is that a determination that's made at some point and then is given the option to maybe approach it in a different way other than just a complete replace?
I mean, we wouldn't go and replace or repair under this program if it was something that could be done more economically through the grinding project or something. This program's really intended for, as I've kind of called, the worst of the worst sidewalks around the city, or so that's kind of the intent and the hope. But yeah, if we found a property would be better suited through the saw cutting, we would definitely do that first before trying to do a full replacement or anything.
Great. All right, any public comment on this item?
I see no raised hands or chats.
All right. Is there a motion on this item?
Move that we approve the contract with Boomer Construction for sidewalk assistance 50/50 repair replacement program.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have staff reports and other business.
Adam Wason, Public Works Director again. Just wanted to make note, I appreciate Beth bringing it up in her comments earlier, but City Street Department staff have been hard at work. We've worked some overtime over the last several weeks, trying to keep after the potholes in this typical time of the year when, the freeze-thaw happens in the winter weather. Pleased to report that since the first of the year, we've patched 2,483 potholes, which is a pretty good effort so far this year. So last week, we were able to get some hot asphalt, so that is much better for patching than the cold asphalt. So appreciate partnership with Milestone and county government. We were able to work with them to get some of the good hot asphalt for the repairs and patching. So if folks do have areas they want to point out that need a pothole filled, 812-349-3448. And outside of that, we held our first in-person Feline Friday adoption event at the animal shelter the other day. That seemed to go well, so for any of those that are looking for a forever friend at the animal shelter, we're looking forward to making those connections. And so yeah, Bloomington Animal Shelter on South Walnut is now accepting visitors. So otherwise, that's all I have to report today.
About the animal shelter and what was happening with.
Yep. Our numbers aren't down too much. Our adoption numbers are pretty steady and haven't been down too far with the pandemic. As with all things pandemic and operations, we modified a lot of what we did and, continue to roll with the punches and just make adjustments when necessary.
The other thing, would you update us a little bit on the Waldron? Anything special going on at the Waldron right now?
We in Public Works, our facilities team led by J.D. Boroff, we have completed all the repairs that were outlined as part of the mayor's reopening of the Waldron. That included tuck pointing and windows, HVAC improvements, drainage improvements, all sorts of things. So those have all been completed. There is a new arts alliance that has partnered up with Bloomington Playwrights Project, Cardinal Spirits. Get your mind out of the gutter. But Pegasus Films, Bloomington Playwrights Project, and Cardinal Stage Company have all partnered up as a arts collaboration to utilize that facility going forward. It doesn't prevent other community uses or other organizations from using the facility as well, but working on a management agreement between them and the city at this time. I think the details of that are all getting worked out. So I know they've done their grand opening, and we've been continuing to provide facility services in the meantime. So, yep.
Thank you.
And one more request, Adam. Quick update on Kirkwood and the restaurant
Oh,
closure.
yeah, sure.
Because that's coming up
Yep.
soon, right?
So we've been in communication with all the restaurants and folks that are planning to use Kirkwood as part of the outdoor dining closures coming up. We decided that we were going to wait till, we'll start implementing the road closures next Monday. That'll be the half a block between Walnut and kind of the Buskirk Chumley there, with Farm, Uptown, Trojan Horse, and then the block with Village Deli and Nick's and Five Guys and the pizza place I can't think of the name of, or Goodfellows. That will also be closed as of the next Monday, and then the block between Indiana and Dunn. So we'll work on those closures starting next Monday. We should get them all completed on Monday. I know the restaurants are excited to get to use that space again. And then parklet installation will also begin next Monday, but will take more time based on the number of folks that we've got looking to use parklets. So exciting times. The weather's nice. The sun is out. You know, folks are ready to get outside. So I know I am.
The next 2 days, this is great.
Yep.
Well, I can't believe I forgot to mention this in my comments earlier, but I had a wonderful experience with the animal shelter this past weekend. I had a found dog in my backyard and had to call the animal shelter, and they had the lost report on file. So Paul, the dog, was reunited with his family thanks to the animal shelter. So
I like it, yes.
Connections can be made.
it was very fast, and I really appreciated all of their help.
Great.
All right, next up is approval of claims. Do we have any questions on claims?
No.
Any public comment on claims? All right, seeing none, is there a motion on claims?
I move approval of claims $1,816,943.31.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And before I call for adjournment, just want to give a big shout out to everyone who made this meeting possible and yesterday's work session possible. I know City ITS does a lot of work for this, and CATS has been with us through it all. So I really appreciate that, and thank goodness for Zoom. So thanks for all of the help and help of all the city staff who have made the last 2 years of meetings smooth despite nothing being smooth in the world.
I won't lie, I told April we'll screw something up this first time around, don't you know, but it's gone off without a hitch, so good job.
Glad to be out here in person.
Aye.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody.
And welcome to Elizabeth Carone, our new member in
Yes.
person.
Yes, and if there's nothing else, I will call for adjournment.